everyone and welcome to today's presentation called Diabetes Prevention Through Lifestyle Change. My name is Ivana and I'll be your health coach today. I would just like to briefly say what is my previous experience. I used to work on cruise ships where I was sports and fitness supervisor for 6 years, and I have been health coach for the last 3 years. Before we start with this presentation, I would like to agree with you on a few things if we can. Firstly, if we can all please put our phones on turn off, if we can turn them off or put them on silent. If you need to answer the phone, please do it outside. Also, if you want to ask questions, you can do that at any time. However, there will be an opportunity at the end of each segment or at the end of the presentation. And also the toilets are outside, just here on the left, and then first go to the right. You can go to the toilet at any time, no need to ask. Okay, so I would like to start this presentation by pointing out the aims of today's session. So firstly, to increase understanding of the benefits of incorporating some lifestyle strategies in order to decrease risk of hormone imbalance, in particular insulin resistance, to enable participants, this is you, to understand the process of behavioural change, and to provide information and resources to assist you establish health and personal goal or goals. The benefits of today's presentation are increased self-efficacy, information and motivation provided by your health coach, and improved knowledge on how insulin works in the body and its effects on prediabetes and diabetes too. I would also like to mention before I tell you what the segments of this presentation are, that you can follow what I'm saying on the laptops provided in front of you. However, I won't be calling the slides, so please bear that in mind. Today's presentation will be divided into two segments. The first segment, we will start with an icebreaker. This should be a fun little activity. Then I will be talking about what happens after we eat the macronutrients, which are carbs, protein and fat, in relation to insulin. And then I will finish the first segment by talking about what actually causes hormone imbalance or insulin resistance. And then the second segment, I will start by giving you some recommendations for healthier lifestyle, and I will finish it with behavioral change strategy, and I would actually like to put more accent on behavioral change. The end of presentation, we will finish by you giving me some feedback. Okay, well, let's start with an icebreaker. Please have a look at your folders that I provided. So that is Dan, this is Sunchita and James. Please pull out the envelope, and in an envelope there is a piece of paper. Unfold it and grab a pen. Okay. So please put your name down. Once you've done that, we will track our hand. So draw your hand on a piece of paper. Just one. Okay, so while you do that, I would like to explain what we're going to do next. So write 5 things that define you as a person. So you can put one word that you think define you. So basically this could be your previous education, or some sort of work success, or family, or something that you want to achieve in the future. So I'll give you 1 minute for this. It can be birth of a child, or I don't know, work success, something that you would like to accomplish in the future, some of your values. Okay. And then once we've done that, we'll share out loud together, so we get to know each other a little bit better before we start or continue with the presentation. Okay. It doesn't have to be 5. It can be 6 or 3. Okay, James is done. Sunchita is done. Leave that one out, doesn't matter. It can be, like I said, doesn't have to be 5. That can be something that you can think about later.
Okay.
Okay, so let's share out loud. Can we start with Sunchita?
Well, basically I wrote down some of my goals for next year, so it's like translation hub, always wanting to be a good mother, hardworking, and digital marketing because I want to learn a lot about that.
Great, awesome. Deki, Dan?
How should I say? I mean, should I have to explain it or?
You don't have to, you can just read.
What is friendship, joy, happiness, curiosity, motivation, and art.
Interesting. Completely different to Sunchita. It's awesome. And James?
And I chose some aspects of my life. I've written family, music, travel, friends and socialising, and sports.
Oh, okay. Awesome. I really wanted to do this exercise before we go on with the presentation, because if we didn't say this loud, we would have never know what each of us is interested in, or what are some of our expectations. Yeah, at this moment, exactly. Yeah, it's great. So thank you very much for that. And now that we sort of know each other a little bit better, we can continue this session in safe, relaxed, and smooth way. Okay, so let's get started. Our bodies are constantly changing depending on the environment we're in. So for example, if we spend a lot of time in the water, like in a bath or a pool, we will start to develop wrinkles on our fingers or on our toes. This is our body's natural adaptation to the slippery surface, so that we get better grip, so that we don't slip. In the context of today's presentation, if we accumulate too many bad habits, over time our body will start to experience some imbalances, which is why I would like today to talk about hormone imbalance that could be caused by some dietary habits. The calories in fat, protein and carbohydrates, which are the 3 macronutrients, have a different biological influence on our metabolic rate, satiety, blood sugar level, brain activity, and the way our body stores fat. Which is why I would like to talk about the relationship between carbs, protein, fat and insulin. So basically, what happens when we eat carbs? After we eat carbs, our blood sugar level goes up. Blood sugar level is called glucose. This is the signal for pancreas to release insulin. Insulin is the hormone that regulates blood sugar level. Insulin's job is to push this glucose into the muscle cells, which gives us energy. The rest of it goes in the liver, but it can't be stored as glucose, it's stored as glycogen. And what happens next is blood sugar level goes down. When the blood sugar level goes down, this is the signal for pancreas to release glucagon. So glucagon does opposite thing from insulin. So basically, when the blood sugar level goes down, glucose gets released from pancreas. It signals liver to transform glycogen back into glucose, which then gets released back into blood. And this cycle just repeats itself. So basically, glucose or glucagon and insulin are hormones that regulate blood sugar level. But this is when everything is working normally. When things are not working normally, or when insulin is not working normally, we could develop insulin resistance, or it's also called prediabetes state or glucose intolerance. So basically, when insulin is not working properly, the blood glucose can't go into the muscle cells, which means it stays in the blood. This means that pancreas thinks that it needs to release more insulin, but because it's not working properly, the blood glucose just adds up in the blood, which is how we develop essentially diabetes too. Fats and insulin. So the high fat level, especially in trans and saturated fat in the blood, could cause insulin resistance by interfering with glucose transport into the muscles. So this is the relationship fat has with insulin. So it can basically block glucose that needs to go into the muscles. Protein and insulin. Protein requires insulin for metabolism, not as much as carbs and fat, and it has minimal effect on blood glucose levels. However, when in healthy person, if we eat carbs with protein, insulin gets released, and by pushing glucose into the muscle cells, it also promotes absorption of amino acids from protein. Okay, are you all following me? Is this
Yes.
clear? Okay, so now that we know what's the relationship between carbohydrates, protein, fat, and insulin, and how it could cause pre-diabetes, I would also like to mention some common facts, which is quite interesting actually. So liver can store only 100 grams of carbs. Like I mentioned before, the residue glucose gets stored in the liver as glycogen. So it can only store 100 grams of it, which means that if it was and the rest of it gets stored as fat. If it was going to get stored as carbs, we would probably get 40 to 60 kilos, we would gain 40 to 60 kilos more. This is why the rest of it gets stored as fat, because it's more energy dense. The World Health Organization recommends people consume less sugar than is found in one regular soda per day. And last thing I would like to mention is insulin can send wrong signals to the brain. Like I mentioned before, carbs are very important for brain activity, so I'm not in any way suggesting that people shouldn't be eating carbs, because carbs are first source of energy that our body uses. However, insulin could send wrong signals to the brain when there is high blood glucose level. Brain creates cravings for carbs because it thinks that there is lack of glucose, and it thinks that our body needs energy, which is how we overeat, basically, by brain creating those cravings. Alright, so that would be the end of the first segment. Anybody has any questions?
How common is diabetes in Australia?
In Australia. In Australia, according to the Institute of Health and Welfare, which I actually came across while doing this presentation, it says that 6% of people suffer from diabetes, but this is 18 years and older, and also it only includes those that are diagnosed, which is even bigger concern, because a lot of people have diabetes or pre-diabetes or some sort of glucose intolerance, but they're not diagnosed. So it is a big concern. Okay.
Sorry, can I control blood sugar with food?
Ah, that's a very good question. Actually, you can you cannot control blood sugar with food. However, you can control it with medication and exercise. However, you can choose to eat food that is not spiking your blood sugar, and so it's not causing you those problems. Yeah, so you can in some ways control it, but you can't prevent it.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on. Like I mentioned at the beginning, second segment of this presentation we will dedicate to talking about some recommendations for healthy lifestyle. I've chosen today to talk about label claims, exercise and behavioral change strategy. Label claims. Before we start, I would like to give you this document. Just have a look at it. So I'm not going to talk today about counting calories or measuring grams or anything like that. However, I wanted to give you this document because it talks about food labels and how you can understand food labels better, because sometimes when you try to buy food, it can be misleading. What companies put on there makes you think it's healthy when it's actually not. So in this document, actually on the last page, what I particularly like is when you look at a food label, it actually tells you what should you aim for when buying products in terms of fat, sugar, salt and servings. It tells you the serving size, etc. Okay, so moving on, talking about some label claims that companies like to put on their products so that you think it's healthy. When you look for whole grain food, when shopping for healthy bread and crackers, look for the words whole grain or 100% whole wheat. If it's not enough if it just says multigrain or made with whole grain. Sugar-free. When it says sugar-free, it doesn't mean that it's completely sugar-free. I mean, it's going to consist of some natural sugars and stuff like that. And when it says sugar-free, it sometimes means that it's maybe made with alcohol sugar, which has less calories than natural sugar.
Or some supplements.
Exactly, which is why I have wanted to provide you with this document that will help you be more mindful. It tells you, so basically it tells you what are added sugars, what the problem is with added sugar, it actually talks about artificial sweeteners as well. So have a look at it. When it says fat-free, this is probably the biggest misleading consultation of all. When the companies, or when it was pretty clear that saturated and trans fats are dangerous, companies started putting labels such as fat-free, but in fact they could be loaded with sugars, or so be mindful of that. Organic is not synonym for healthy food. In fact, it may be in anything but. Organic food can still be packed in fat, calories and sugar, and companies like to put words healthy wherever they can. And lastly, serving size. And when it comes to serving size, I think I said before, I'm not going to talk about counting calories today. or measuring food or anything like that. However, I would like to point out that knowing how many serve sizes you can eat throughout a day could help you be more mindful and make a healthier food choice when you go shopping for food. Because food manufacturers can be tricky with serving sizes. To make a product look low in fat or calories, they may list information based on a tiny, unrealistic serving size. And this is one of my favorite topics because I really like talking about how we can learn what the right serving size is. We can learn by comparing some food that we commonly eat with some objects that we find around us. For example, I don't know, compared to hand or palm or finger or a globe or baseball ball. Have a look at this. This is that it is really helpful tool to help you make some better or healthier food choices. Next one, exercise. I'm not going to talk for too long about how beneficial exercise is for pre-diabetes or diabetes or healthier lifestyle, because we all know this. We all know that you know, running, walking, swimming, any aerobic exercise helps us. However, I would just like to point out that high intensity interval cardio is one of the best ways to exercise if you, for example, don't have time to go and spend half an hour, 45 minutes in the gym or walking or anything like that. And strength training. Strength training is, the research says that if we do have time to go for a walk, let's say 3 times a week, and then add some strength training to it at least twice a week, this is proven, it's shown to improve the symptoms of type 2 diabetes. Okay, so last recommendation for a healthier lifestyle that I'm going to talk about today, and we're all going to participate in this, is behavioral change. So it's all good, you know, we said, go and look for a label, you know, what it says on a label claim, exercise and everything like that. But what happens when you just lack motivation to implement this change? One of the ways, one of the strategies is to just have a behavioral change. There are 3 stages in behavioral change. Firstly, address barriers to change. Secondly, motivation to change. And lastly, once you've done the change, we need to somehow maintain it. And this is where we talk about Barbara. Barbara is our friend who has pre-diabetes and an unhealthy body weight. She tried a few times to lose weight but never managed to keep the weight off long term. Those fitness programs sound too challenging, so she never really tried them. Also, she doesn't like going to the gym. She would like to lead a healthier lifestyle, but she says that it is too expensive to buy healthy products, and she gets overwhelmed with too many different food choices. At work, she usually just buys food at the local bakery, and when she gets back from work, she's too tired, so she will rather eat something quick and just relax on the couch, watch TV and eat some snacks with her husband. Barbara has 2 kids, and she would love for them to adopt healthy lifestyle. Okay, so let's grab that piece of paper that I gave you before. And let's look at Barbara's example. So, like I said at the beginning of talking about behavioral change, we need to first address barriers to change. So let's have a look at what could be Barbara's perceived barriers for change. Perceived barriers could be anything from emotions to feelings or environmental change, such as her husband is not supportive or family is not supportive or kids are not supporting. And it could also be some real barriers such as health barriers. So let's put maybe one barrier that we think Barbara has that's stopping her from making some changes. How are you going?
Yeah, I've got a couple.
Well, let's start with you, James, and the rest of the group can finish in the meantime. What do you
One that stood out to me was that she gets overwhelmed with too many different food choices, so her awareness of food choices or lack of seems like a barrier if she just gives up.
Okay. In a sense, maybe she doesn't know what food is good for her.
Yeah, exactly.
Then?
I think that most important is that her surrounding is not supportive too much. I mean, if she's eating some candies or sweets with her husband watching TV and with the kids, I think it's the main barrier
Yeah.
of
That's
not
really
not supporting family at first, and then I mean the rest, the colleagues at the work or Yeah. So she needs to try and surround herself with positive, affirmative
supportive
people.
Yeah.
Supportive people.
Well, I actually wrote down that she has a lack of knowledge about food.
Yeah.
And this is the big problem. When she understands that she doesn't have enough money to buy healthy food. But maybe this is not true because she believes in it, but maybe she just doesn't have enough knowledge about how to make proper food combinations or something like that.
Yeah, excuse me. Not having money, I think it's a bit of
It's an
nonsense.
excuse.
Yeah, it's an excuse because you are spending also a lot of money on buying in bakeries or fast food
Snacks.
restaurants, and for the same money you can buy some healthy products. So you can combine. So it's just an excuse, I think, not
Yeah, I
having the
think-
money.
Maybe also it can be a problem because she has 2 children and I think that she is maybe already something like overwhelmed mom who is working a lot and she doesn't have enough time to think about herself, but I think that she should think about herself because she's the most important resource.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly. Everything you said makes complete sense because this is why we talk about behavioral change, because over time she has adopted these feelings and behaviors that made her this way. So by addressing those perceived barriers, we can help her see that there is a different way of doing things and you still enjoy yourself and you still do things. Okay, great. Let's so the next stage is how do we get Barbara, how do we motivate her? One of the ways to motivate someone to change is by setting up goals. So the main thing with this is to start small. So you set up small, achievable goals, which will boost our self-efficacy. So basically, the acronym SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time framed. So for Barbara, this could mean, for example, what is Barbara's guiding value? It could be she wants her kids to adopt healthier lifestyle, and then we can set up her goal based on that. So she wants, so in order for her kids to have healthier lifestyle, she needs to be healthy. So she needs to maybe lead by example and make some changes. When we say specific goal, this could be, let's say, first week, bring your own food to work.
Yeah.
Or walk to the nearest park and eat your lunch there. Measurable or meaningful goal means, for example, walk to work twice a week. That is measurable. Or go for a walk with kids for 30 minutes after work each day.
Yeah, I think
What do you think?
even preparing food together with her children. You know,
Yes.
I mean, once,
Yeah.
twice a week.
Yeah.
You know, it's some healthy food that could be interesting. Using different kinds of vegetables to make different colors in your plate and to be
Yeah,
healthy. You know, not only
Exactly.
eating sweets or something.
exactly. So, very well said, because my next point was to get rid of unhealthy snacks. This is also specific goal. So get rid of unhealthy snacks. Attainable. Barbara's goal is achievable through goal setting and self-efficacy. So by setting these goals, we're building up Barbara's self-efficacy and her belief that she can achieve this. Realistic. What would you say would be realistic? Maybe lose, I don't know, 500 grams or 1 kilo 2 weeks or something like that. So, but I mean, what is realistic? What would you say would be a realistic overall goal for Barbara?
Well, I think it's realistic to stop eating snacks with her husband. I think that's realistic,
Yeah.
even if it's replaced with healthy foods. I think that's
So
very
instead
realistic.
of, so you think maybe instead of eating snacks and watching TV after she comes back from work, maybe she can instead
Do
of that
something else
replace
instead.
that habit
Yeah.
with maybe going for a walk with her kids or
Yeah.
something. So replace one habit with
Yeah,
another healthy
replacing
one.
with
The small one.
Yeah.
bad
Realistic.
habits with the good ones. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe so time frames. Let's say 3 weeks. Try this, and then we can reassess Barbara's program and see how she's going.
Yeah, it's not about the losing the weight. I mean, if she's having a problem with that, she's also having a problem with her health. But it's
Exactly.
said that she's overweighted, and I think there is some kind of frustration about that too. Because that is the problem. If overweighted people, when they having a diet and they're only thinking about losing the weight,
Yes.
that's not
Exactly.
the idea.
That's not exactly, and that's totally not my point. My point is that by replacing bad habits with
Yes,
healthier
exactly.
ones, you will lose.
If she's not
weight.
thinking about losing the
Naturally.
weight, she's
Yeah.
gonna use it. She's gonna lose it.
Lose
Yeah.
it,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly what
That
my
could be
point
also
is.
realistic. Yeah.
I mentioned self-efficacy as a way of achieving, so boosting self-efficacy in order to achieve one goal and then another goal and maintaining that. So when I say self-efficacy refers to an individual's belief in his or her capacity to execute behaviors necessary to produce specific performance attainments, and this is according to Bandura in 1977. Lastly, to maintain behavioral change, according to American Psychological Association, we can do things such as start small, change one behavior at a time, involve the body, make a plan that will stick, ask for support. This is, you can see that this is all really connected and it all makes sense together.
It is.
Lastly, I would just like to mention that it is normal to lapse. It is normal to maybe, follow a plan for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then one day you go and do something that's not according to that plan. However, don't give up, tomorrow is the next day, so just keep going. And one way to overcome those lapses is by adopting some mindfulness skills. Some of them are be present in the moment, do one thing at a time, don't multitask. I know it's hard today, in today's day and age, but take an everyday task and focus your full attention on it. And with this, I would like to conclude this session and say a healthy lifestyle not only changes your body, it changes your mind, your attitude, and your mood. And this is the end of today's presentation, and I would just like to thank you for listening and maybe ask you for some feedback. If you can tell me what are you taking away from this session, do you have any suggestions, what can I do to make this presentation better, and so anyone?
Oh, I love the talking about achievable goals. That's something that's really easy to forget, like you said, in this day and age when there's so much social media and things are so in your face, so thinking about smaller tasks and mindfulness is really good. It's good to try and remember.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you for your presentation. I really liked it. I think that Barbara is a good example of bad behavior. Or not behavior, but bad habits. That you just you get it, but you don't know that you got it. So it's a good example, and I will try my best to teach as much as I can from this presentation.
That's true.
Right. Thank you, Ben.
I think that Barbara should come to this kind of presentation. Get all of these nice materials, because this is great. I mean, the serving size guide is something which is quite important,
And we should read this afterwards.
We should definitely have a look at it. And also, I would like to thank you one more time. And if you have a look at your envelope, there is a piece of paper there. Tonight, before you go to bed, maybe you can write down some goals that you would like to achieve, and maybe post it to yourself or keep it somewhere, and then have a look at it in 3 weeks to see if you've followed up on it.
Stay on track.
Yeah, stay on track.
Thank you.
It's color coordinated. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.